Welcome to the Geek Cabal channel. I'm Bob,
I'm Jim.
and you're about to watch a clip from one of our longer podcast videos since they've been running about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We splice clips out. If you like the whole thing, it'll be linked to in the description. Hopefully, you'll watch it too. It's up to you, though. And since this is YouTube, you know how it goes. If you like what you like here, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But otherwise, hope you enjoy the clip. On to gaming, I guess. We're going
Here
to
we go.
gaming or streaming.
I don't got anything on streaming.
Streaming will be very brief. I blitzed through Castlevania seasons 3 and 4 because I didn't watch them when they came out for some reason. Uh, they were good. They were actually really good. Three's kind of slow. It's just kind of positioning things for season 4, but season 4 is good. Uh, like a lot of like serious, in-depth like character stuff. A lot of the characters realizing like why do we actually want the things we want them respectively. Should we actually want them? What would we do if we got them? Like, uh, some spoilers. Dracula gets killed in the end of season 2 of that. So in towards the end of his reign in season 2, Carmilla is already like actively working to try to overthrow him. But then he gets killed, and so do a bunch of the other vampires. But she escapes with most of her army and one of the Forge Masters who can make the night creatures. Just also, side note, I've only played part of one Castlevania game. I have no idea how accurate or inaccurate this game is to the lore. The movie is to the show is to the lore. I'm given to understand it's not overly accurate. So here goes.
Yeah, because I say killing Dracula doesn't do a whole lot. You can just gather his bones and put them back together and
Well,
kill him again.
we'll get to that here in a second. So Carmilla gets back to her castle like 800 miles away from Wallachia. This actually, I don't know, do the Castlevania games actually take place in the real world or like someplace else?
Um, I don't know if it's Transylvania or what. I honestly, I don't know if I caught that lore.
Well, because these take place in the real world in a very specific year and everything. So, because Wallachia is, if I recall correctly, in Transylvania. So, because that, and Vlad is Vlad Tepesh, so he's that Vlad Dracula. Uh, anyway, so he gets killed. She has to march her army like 800 miles back to her castle. By the time she gets there, like the horses are all dead because they've been attacked by humans repeatedly, and it's literally just her and the army. Once she like gets settled back in and gets her wits together, her and her other three vampire gals who run the whole show there are like, she's like, hey guys, so I just marched 800 miles through absolute chaos. Like, let's conquer it. Like, there's nothing holding anything together between here and Wallachia. Why don't we conquer it, enclose it, and then we have enough livestock, being the people that are there, to last us forever. And they're like, well, it would be stretching things kind of thin, and eventually the other three all come around to how they can make it happen. But they have some reservations, and once the one who's like the general and the one who's like the logistics person actually go out to survey things to try to make sure they really understand what's going on because their intel's spotty at best. They get attacked at one point in the middle of the day because they're just in like tents and fields. Well, the people attacking them know they're vampires. So it's like, just cut the tents open, let the sun do the job. And they're like, oh shit, that will actually work. We better fight these guys back. Well, the main one, has armor so she can go out in the sun. And so she goes out there and just starts mowing through them because even if she were just like a normal vampire, she'd be stronger and faster, but she's like a hulking brute, like taller than I am. And just like mows through them. And then she comes back, and the other vampire chick, uh, who they're lovers, she's like, hey, so you know how you were telling me that you don't think there's any way we could actually tame this region? Like, I've come around to your way of thinking. So, like, that wasn't an army. Those were just people. They will never accept us as rulers, especially once, we start eating them. He's like, what I just did, I'll be doing that for the rest of eternity if we try this. And she's like, I don't want to do that. Like, nope, I didn't become immortal just to waste my time doing stupid shit like this. So the two of them have to have like a real kind of heart to heart of like, well, we're immortal. Like, are we going to lock ourselves into this stupidity forever? And they're like, ain't happening. So they just like gather the army. We're going back to the castle to tell Carmilla this is not happening. And they get there right as someone else is attacking the castle, and they kill Carmilla. And they're like, well, this is what we tried to avoid. This is what we get for overreaching. We had a good thing, and then we had to go and do more. And so the one of the quartet that's left in the castle is with the other forge master, and he's explaining where things went wrong with Carmilla. And he's basically like, look, she wanted more than she could ever hope to contain. Because towards the end, she was like, I want to conquer the entire world. And she's like, so many of the high ranking vampires got killed with Dracula, like, we can take all their territories. And they're just like, whoa, 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 like, one step at a time here. And so he's like, no, she just, it's just endless hunger. And so the other one's like, oh, so like a vampire, you mean? And she's like, yeah. And that's when the other woman's like, so like me, because he kind of likes her. And she's just like, someone else had conquered the castle, and he was with the other guy, so he wouldn't kill her. And she's like, well, I'm not going to live my whole life here being a prisoner, and you've made me realize what I am by my very nature, which is ultimately going to get me killed just like Carmilla at some point. So I'm going to go check out this sunrise you talk about so much. And she goes out and she sees the sunrise, and she's just like, is that it? Like, you melodramatic bastard. And they're just like, and he's just like, well, shit. Now she's gone. Now what the hell am I going to do? And yeah, so the rest of the plot involves trying to resurrect Dracula.
Does it involve gathering his bones and
No, no,
putting him
no,
into an orb and throwing
nope,
his stake at it?
no. They have to get his soul out of hell. And this guy who's an alchemist has been told he's got a girlfriend who's stuck in like the infinite corridor, which is like a gateway between all times and places and everything. He can't control it. He can get into it, but he can't control it to get to where he needs to go. It just kind of randomly. And he encounters someone who's another alchemist who's like, there's a way to do it. You just need to complete like the ultimate work of alchemy and create. I think it was a rebus is what it was called, which is to bind two souls together into a hermaphroditic body. Shit gets really weird at the end of the show.
It sounds like it.
And so they're like, so you need to get Dracula and his bride that got killed way back in the beginning that sparked all this crap and fuse them together. And so he's like, oh, sure thing. And there's like one vampire that's pushing him to do all this stuff. And voiced by Malcolm McDowell. Yeah, the voice acting goes up a notch in seasons 3 and 4. Malcolm McDowell shows up. Not Bill Nye, Bill Nighy. Uh, Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean
Okay.
movies. And also Jason Isaacs. He's in season 3 as this town mayor kind of guy. Lucius Malfoy, for those of you who don't know that name off the top of your head. So, Malcolm McDowell's character, like once the guy has like the portal locked and has found their two souls and is getting ready to bring them into the real world, he's just like, oh, you humans are so easy to manipulate. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, I've been manipulating you ever since we met. He's like, we never met until just now. He goes, oh, yes, we have. And he turns into the alchemist and he set all this in motion. He's like, but even this isn't my real form. And then he turns into a skeletal figure because he's literally death. And he's pissed off that someone killed Dracula because Dracula is going to kill everybody. He was denied his ultimate prize of everyone dying. So he wants Dracula back. And the guy's like, well, wait, you heard what I said. Like, he's going to be like a alchemical hermaphrodite with his wife. And he's like, I don't care. He'll just be crazy and more pissed off. He'll kill people even more now. And the guy's like, Jesus, we can't do this. So like their souls come out and get to the body, and like Dracula's fighting it because he has a strong will, so he's not going to allow himself to be transformed like that. And something all goes all wrong, and the alchemist ends up dying, and that all goes uh, sideways. And so then Death's just really pissed off, and like Trevor Belmont's like, well, I guess I'm going to go back in there and fight him because reasons. And they're like, wait, you're going to fight like a personification of death? And you're like, yeah, I think I could take him.
I mean, you do fight death in the video games.
And so, yeah, it comes down to this like massive climactic fight because Death grows like this gigantic size and
As he does.
takes him
I
on.
know, I
And,
mean, he does in the games.
yeah, so he had found something on one of the guards earlier, a couple relics they'd just been like plundering this treasury nearby, and like he had noticed he didn't say what it did. He's like, I can't believe someone's just walking around with this thing, and he's like looking at it, he's like, it goes with this thing, and he's like, surely this can't be what I think it is. And at the very end, he explains what it is, but like he takes it and he does something to distract death, and then he like jams the gemstone into the dagger, and as near as I can tell, it like creates a black hole or something, and just jams it right into the skull there and takes out death and dies. So
Oh, he dies too.
yeah, it leads you to believe that for a good 10 minutes until finally like his horse comes riding up to the castle there, and he's on the back of it almost dead. And yeah, and Alucard's there at the castle. This is Dracula's castle, and yeah, and his wife starts with this Sylphie, Stephanie, something. But then the final shot is that Dracula and his bride are also still alive. Like they didn't go back to hell. Their souls like apparently built bodies, and now they're just walking around. And so they're sitting there, and she's like, "So why are we still alive? What happened?" He's like, "I don't know." She's like, "Well, don't you have a theory?" He goes, "No, no, no, not really." She's like, "You're a man. Men always have theories. What do you got?" I was like, "Well, she's not wrong on that, but
It's the Roman Empire.
yeah." So the two of them were just like, "Well, I guess let's just go and like see the world now." So the show actually kind of had a happy ending for everyone but Carmilla, uh, but she had it coming. So but everyone else seems to kind of got kind of what they wanted or maybe needed. Yeah, it got real philosophical on a lot of things there towards the end. But I did all this because now Castlevania Nocturne is on. I'm about 3 episodes into it. It's so far. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
So you got Trevor Belmont. Do you ever get to Simon Belmont?
I think Simon's Trevor's son, isn't he?
I gotta, I gotta remember how it goes because you
Because
have.
I think it's going to skip over Simon because the games focus on Simon. I think is the idea.
Well, that I don't know because one of them takes place before the other one. I can't remember if it's the first one, if it goes like in order, or if it's that the third one actually is the beginning of. I don't know because you have the first game is just Castlevania. They have Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, and Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. And I think Dracula's Curse may actually take place in the beginning of the timeline. But Simon's Quest was such a departure from the rest of the games. That's why they never went back to it. Because one, people got annoyed by the day-night transitions, where you'd be playing for a little bit and it would stop, have an unskippable text crawl that would say, "What a horrible night to have a curse." And then when it turned night, all the creatures became more powerful. And then when the sunlight would, when daytime would come, it would say like the sunlight has vanquished the blah blah blah, and the things would get weak again. And
Yeah.
then you had to collect hearts for not health but for money.
Well, I will make one other comment about the show. For those of you who have not seen it, it is graphically violent. Like it's anime esque in its appearance, but it is just gruesome to the hilt. Lots and lots of cussing. Definitely some sexual content, depending on the episode and the season. So yeah, like it is not for kids at all. Like you'll figure that out real quick in the first episode, but like just in case, just throwing it out there.